God's generosity, a reflection for the 26th Sunday in Ordinary Time. In today's first reading, Joshua urges his mentor, Moses, to hold fast to his God-given authority by reining in Eldad and Medad, two members of the community who missed the special tent meeting but received the Spirit nonetheless. Their prophesying in the camp prompts Joshua's indignant protest. "Moses, my lord, stop them!" Moses, it seems, recognizes the limits of his own authority and refuses to meddle in God's. His decision to let go and let God anoint others, both within a ritual framework and beyond it, speaks of his maturity in ministry among the people and his trust in God's plan for them. Not even Moses dares to limit God's generosity. Jesus faces a similar objection from his disciples, who have seen outsiders doing mighty deeds in Jesus' name and have tried to stop them. His response, "Do not prevent them, for whoever is not against us is for us," demonstrates his expansive view of God's reign, breaking out among all people in spirited actions great and small. Today's verses from Psalm 19 refer to the various codes of Israel's law handed down over centuries. The text extols the law, the decree, the ordinances, and the precepts of the Lord, each with a separate affirmation. Nestled among these gifts of God, we find the human response, fear of the Lord, called here both pure and enduring. The psalmist then admits the possibility that despite her attentiveness, some wayward act might escape her notice. She asks pardon for unknown faults and deliverance from serious sin. All too often we think of the law in terms of admonitions and prohibitions, as a long list of do's and don'ts. Our ancestors in faith had a different understanding. The Hebrew word for law, Torah, means teaching, and carries with it the distinct image of a pointed finger showing the way. From this perspective, the law becomes a revelation, a helping hand, a life-giving guide for covenant partnership with God, made manifest in justice, right relationship with God, other people, and all creation. This Sunday we hear from St. James one last time, and his parting words sting and smart. "Come now, you rich, weep and wail over your impending miseries." The misery begins as accumulated wealth rots, fine clothes become food for moths, and precious metal corrodes. In ancient agrarian culture, wealth refers to grain, sown and harvested by others, that must be sold, shared, or stored. Rot functions as both metaphor and concrete possibility. Similarly, garments woven of wool end up full of holes, and even metal, perhaps coin exposed to the air, corrodes over time. Though we may not consider ourselves rich, we can all relate to the desire for wealth, and as we get older, to the burden of accumulation. One need not be a hoarder in the clinical sense of the word to feel the weight of stuff stored up over time. St. James reminds us that when it comes to wealth, the adage rings true. You can't take it with you. More than that, wealth can damage the person as desire gives way to greed, possession to grasping, and prosperity to endless worry over the possibility of loss. St. James also calls our attention to the other side of the divide between rich and poor, to the one whose weary labor fills the barns of the rich man with grain, but falls short of filling the bellies of his children. Like the Old Testament prophets before him, James condemns the rich not for wealth, but for the greed that robs the worker of a fair and just wage. The voice of the powerless, though faint in the world, rings clear in the ear of the Lord. All of us who have more than we need, while others lack the necessities for life and health, bear some responsibility for this sin against God's justice and generosity.